The last time I saw him, he was barely out of high school. Skinny, awkward, always tangled in video games or arguing with his mother. Back then, he was just her son. A background character I barely registered beyond a polite nod in the kitchen, over coffee. But this time, when I opened the door to my friend's house, there he was, taller, broader, different. His presence filled the room in a way it never had before, deliberate, grounded. Something inside me stirred. It wasn't just his face. More defined now, the angles of his jaw set, the eyes softer. It was the way he looked at me, like he remembered me. Not as his mother's friend, as someone. He smiled first. I returned it reflexively, though something in my chest tightened. My friend welcomed me with her usual chatter, but I kept drifting, toward the way he leaned against the counter, the way his forearm tensed when he reached for a glass, the new weight in his voice. He didn't say much that night. Not to me. But I felt his eyes, never quite staring, just observing, like he was trying to figure something out. I hadn't realized I was giving anything away. Dinner was easy, familiar, full of recycled stories. He mostly stayed quiet, tossing in the occasional smirk or offhand remark that cut a little too clean. My friend didn't notice. I did. The room felt warmer than it should have. I kept tugging at my blouse, suddenly aware of fabric and skin. At one point, I fled to the bathroom, splashed cold water on my wrists, and stared at my reflection, unsure what I was trying to hide. When I came back, they were finishing dessert. He stood to clear plates, reaching for mine before I could, his fingers brushing mine. Just enough to unstring my next thought. After coffee, I stood to leave. My friend chatted about weekend plans. I nodded, distracted. At the door, he stepped in beside me, opened it before I could reach. "Careful driving," he said, close enough for his breath to brush my neck. I turned toward him, expecting a grin, but he wasn't smiling. "Shame you live so close," he added, voice low. "Makes things more complicated." Then he stepped back, eyes drifting away, leaving the door open. In the car, my hands trembled on the wheel. I told myself it was nothing, just a young man testing limits that didn't exist. But that night, in the bathroom, I looked at my body differently. Not with judgment, with attention. My fingers drifted to my collarbone, where I'd seen his eyes pause. I found a pair of white lace underwear I hadn't worn in months. Something stirred, not a memory. Something closer to want. My husband was already in bed, half reading, half asleep. He looked up, smiled, turned back to his screen. I lay beside him, quiet, still half-dressed. He didn't notice, or chose not to. That was how we worked now. Polite, quiet avoidance of anything we couldn't name. In the dark, I replayed that moment at the door. His voice. The way he looked at me. I knew I'd see him again. And I knew, though I didn't want to admit it. Part of me needed that more than anything I'd felt in weeks. I didn't reach for the note. I watched his fingers, how they lingered on the doorframe. A moment too long. "You could have texted," I said, casual. "You blocked me," he replied. Flat, not bitter. I didn't answer. He stepped back, eyes on mine. "Take care." Then he was gone. The scent of him, clean, sharp, faintly metallic, lingered. I waited a full minute before unfolding the paper. His handwriting was rushed but clear. "If I asked to see you again, just to talk, would you say yes? No name, no time, no pressure." I slipped it into my purse like contraband. That night, after my husband's breath had settled into sleep, I read it again under the soft glow of my bedside lamp. I found myself writing on the back, "Yes." Once. I didn't sleep well. My dreams were fractured, his face too close, my husband's voice distant, the sound of paper tearing. In the morning, I dropped the note in a mailbox near his building. I told myself it was the end. 2 days later, a message arrived through someone who didn't know better. He'll be at the cafe near the park, Friday 4. I shouldn't have gone. But Friday came. I stood in front of the mirror in a cream blouse I hadn't worn in years, earrings that caught the light when I moved, perfume I saved for anniversaries. My hands were steady. He was already there, coffee in hand, phone untouched. He looked up as I approached, and for the first time, there was no smugness, just something close to relief. "You came," he said. I said I would. "You look different." "Good different?" He smirked. "Very." The conversation was surface. Weather, work, the town. But everything beneath it pulsed. Every glance, every brush of his knee under the table felt louder than words. He didn't mention the kiss. Neither did I. But as I reached for my coat, he said, "You never answered the second question." I paused. "What second question?" "Would you want it to happen again?" He held my gaze. I didn't ask out loud, but I think you heard it. I stood, smoothing my coat. "And what makes you think I didn't answer?" He smiled, soft. "Because you're still here." That night, I folded the blouse like a secret and placed it back in the drawer. My husband asked if I turned off the lights downstairs. I lied. I slid into bed still wearing the scent of that cafe, still hearing the question I had already answered, with my presence. He handed me a novel, asked about my day. "Long," I said. He kissed my forehead, told me dinner, was almost ready. We ate by candlelight again. He said I looked beautiful in black, said he was proud of how involved I'd become in the community. I smiled. That night, he reached for me in bed. I let him, moved just enough, made the right sounds, kept my body warm beneath his. But inside, I was somewhere else, a dim gallery, silk, brushing my shoulder, a different mouth, a different voice saying my name like it meant something. After, I curled away, stared at the ceiling, didn't cry, didn't feel guilt, only awake and certain. I would go next weekend. In the days that followed, I played the role. Dinner, laundry, emails, dentist, dry cleaning, bird feeder. Even my husband noticed. Said I seemed lighter. I smiled back. I was learning how to wear comfort like a costume. But inside, I was in his car again, his hand on the wheel. Trees blurring past. I was living in a secret, and it felt like the only place I still existed. I told myself I had to make it look right, made reservations we wouldn't keep, mentioned visiting my sister. He nodded, distracted, not asking. Maybe he sensed it. Maybe he buried it. Thursday, I had lunch with his mother. She didn't mention him, but he was everywhere. His scent on the couch, his shoes by the door. She asked if everything was okay. I lied too quickly. "You look different lately," she said. "Like you're thinking a lot." I laughed. "Maybe I am." She touched my arm. "Thinking can be dangerous." That night, I packed a small bag, told my husband about my sister again, kissed him goodnight, lay beside him wide-eyed in the dark. In the morning, he left early. 15 minutes later, I dressed. Red lingerie, a dress he'd never seen, heels, a little makeup, a version of me I hadn't worn in years. He picked me up, on the edge of town. We didn't speak. Wind in our hair. Radio low. We drove to a quiet coastal town. Checked into a lavender-scented inn. The woman at the desk asked if we were celebrating something. He said yes. I didn't correct her. We walked narrow streets, shared wine by the sea. He asked about my childhood, my regrets, my late-night thoughts. Told the truth, not for him, but for myself. He listened like it mattered. That night, I stood in front of the mirror, undressed slowly, touched the place on my stomach where choices leave echoes. He knocked once. I let him in. We sat at the edge of the bed, shoulder to shoulder, unspeaking. I don't want to ruin your life, he said. Then don't, I answered. I want more, he said. I nodded, not knowing what more meant, only that I wanted to keep the part of me that had come alive. Beside him, we whispered fragments of ourselves into the dark. It was supposed to be the last time, an agreement we never spoke. A weekend and then return. Monday came. I returned. The kettle boiled. The washer spun. The dog barked. Life resumed. I moved through it like a borrowed body, smiling on cue, answering as expected. But inside, I carried that other version of myself, the one he uncovered. 3 days. No messages. I told myself I needed the silence. By Thursday, it felt like weight. That evening, I wandered. Streets I'd known forever felt unfamiliar. I ended up at the park, under bare trees, wrapped in wind and the first scent of autumn. I saw him. He wasn't looking for me. Just stood by the water still. Something in the air pulled his eyes to mine. He walked over, sat beside me. I didn't think I'd see you, he said. Why are you here? I come here sometimes. A lie, almost laughed, or cried, maybe both. We watched the sun lower. Amber light made him look older, etched with something unspoken, longing maybe. He spoke first, breaking the silence. I'm leaving next week. Got a job offer in Denver. Something dropped inside me. For how long? I asked. Maybe permanently. I turned away. My throat tightened. That soon. I wasn't going to tell you. Thought it'd be easier. Easier for who? No answer. He reached into his coat, pulled out a folded note. He didn't hand it to me, just set it on the bench. If you want to see me again before I go, it has to be your choice. The wind tugged at the paper. I pressed it down with my fingers. He stood. I don't regret any of it, he said. But I won't be one more thing you have to lie about. Then he walked away. I stayed until the sky turned. Violet and the street lamps buzzed on. Later, I unfolded the note. An address, a time, and 3 words. No instructions, no expectations. That night, I lay beside my husband, eyes open. His breathing was steady. His wedding ring left a dent in the eye blanket. I tried to remember the last time he reached for me like he couldn't help it. The next morning he kissed me goodbye. Need anything from the store? No, I said. I sat at the kitchen table tracing the handwriting. I didn't know if I'd go, but I knew I couldn't pretend it hadn't happened. That I hadn't felt something shift. Some moments don't announce themselves. They just settle quietly, and afterward, nothing will be the same. Saturday came. I told my husband I was going to a gallery. Take your time, he said. I drove in silence. No music, no GPS, just instinct. The house was small, tucked into trees. Temporary, like us. He opened the door before I knocked. I didn't think you'd come. I almost didn't. But you did. Inside we sat, silent, steady. I don't know what this means, I said. Me neither. His hand lay open on the couch between us. An invitation, not a request. I leaned back. I've never done this before. Lied. Chosen myself. He smiled, soft, sad. Reached for my hand like he had once touched my jaw. Careful. Reverent. This doesn't have to become something else to matter. He said. It already matters, I answered. That's the problem. When we kissed, it wasn't urgent. It was certain. Later we lay together, quiet, entwined, no talk of goodbye, no future, just presence. When he asked if I'd stay, I said no. I need to go home. He walked me to the car. Will you call me? If you want me to. I didn't answer. Just drove. At home, the porch light was on. My husband greeted me with a kiss and a question about dinner. I smiled, responded, slipped into bed still carrying the warmth of someone else's skin. But I didn't feel broken. I felt whole. For a long time, I believed returning meant erasing. Now I know better. You return different. You carry things. Quiet things. A glance. A name. The memory of being seen. He never called. I didn't write. What we had didn't need translation. It lived in a single season, brief, burning, complete. Later, his mother called. He left, she said. Denver job came through, packed up, and gone by Monday. You knew? Yes. You okay? I'm fine. He said you were kind to him. Kind. Strange word for what passed between us. But maybe that's what it was. Meeting each other without possession. Just presence. Weeks passed. One night my husband watched me. You've changed, he said. How? I don't know. You're quieter. Not sad. Just elsewhere. I didn't answer. I wanted to say everything and nothing. That he hadn't failed me. That I had unraveled in the absence of something I hadn't known I needed. I thought we were okay, he said. We were. Maybe we still are. I don't want to lose you. You haven't. And that wasn't a lie. But he hadn't quite found me again either. Now I choose my lingerie with care, even if no one will see. I walk into rooms aware of my body, not how it looks, but how it feels. I made love to my husband that night slowly, fully present. He cried after. Silent tears. He held me tighter, as if something had shifted. It had. Later, in the mirror, I didn't hate myself. I didn't love myself more. But I understood something about myself I hadn't before. A week later, I walked through the park where we'd once met. The bench was empty. I sat anyway. No one waited, but I felt him. Not beside me. Not like a ghost. Just inside, in the place that had opened when he said, "Careful driving." I whispered it to the wind. Thank ye. You. Not for the affair, but for the return to myself.